trust me, 6 months time from now, it'll be on, 6-figure followers. It was 100k in 6 months we done.
Yeah.
And then from then on, once we passed that, it just went up and up and up and up. They were investing maybe $10 into a coin or into an NFT, and their return was like 100 grand,
Man, I feel evil, I know where the demons hide. Man, I'm on scheming.
Alright, welcome back to the podcast, guys. This is episode 5, I think. Bit of a late night one, but we'll have to get it in. With a special guest here today. We've known each other for a long time. But yeah, does a bit of this, does a bit of that. Man of many talents, but we've got Cameron Glasgow in the house. How you doing?
All good, man. Thanks for having me on. Very excited to get on, talk about more about what I do. And yeah, as you said, we've known each other now 5 years or so. It's been a crazy journey. Yeah. And now here we are on the podcast together.
That's exactly it. So we're going to cover a few bits and pieces. We're going to go through, from the start in terms of kind of like the clothing. We're going to talk about crypto. We're going to talk about music. We're going to talk about events. We're going to talk about all of it. But yeah, I mean, I've done a little bit of an intro, but yeah, introduce yourself.
Awesome. So yeah, I'm Cameron. For those of you that don't know, I run a music label and an event series called RAVE RESIDENCE. I kind of started out within fashion, within marketing, and everything that involves. I love to do, and over the past few years, then I've started DJing and started running this music label, as you can see, RAVE RESIDENCE. And yeah, we've just been for the past few years growing that to new highs each day. But yeah, that's basically what I do, a bit of everything here and there.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I speak to a lot of people, deal with a lot of people, entrepreneurs, artists, all that sort of stuff from all different walks of life, but it's been so interesting to see someone kind of come up at the same sort of time, evolve, try different things. Some things work, some things don't, but you've kind of like hit everything with a stride and have now kind of like found your path, I feel like. So I want to kind of go back to the beginning and kind of explore and understand why and how you got into what you got into. Because at the end of the day, I think I've said it on another podcast before, but it's just so interesting to me, kind of, 99% of people will have an idea or have a dream or whatever it may be, and then they'll be like, yeah, I'll do that one day, never get around to doing it because they don't really have like that thing in their head. But it's just so interesting to me to kind of have a conversation with people or an individual that could kind of go, no, do you know what, I'm going to do it, and actually give it a go and actually be able to do it.
Yeah.
So so going right back to the beginning, like in terms of actually let's go way back. So like in terms of school and all that, like how was school for you? Like how did you navigate that?
Yeah, so school for me, it was always one of those things that going through school, I didn't really like it. I didn't really enjoy school. Grades-wise, it wasn't too bad, but it was just the enjoyment of having to do, all the studying and having to do that at home. It wasn't for me. It wasn't for me, that natural way of life, and I knew that from day one. Even my parents would say the exact same thing. I was always a kid that strived for more than just school and university and not that single way of living and obviously that's kind of where fashion came into play, because I had to search for something outside of this ordinary life that I was living and growing into. Mm-hmm. And I know so many people fall into that trap, and of course a lot of people will need that degree or need that for whatever they do, if it's law, medicine. But for what I wanted to do at that moment in time, fashion, it involved a lot of creativity. And that's naturally what I was as a person. I was a creative person. So to me, the grades, once they came in, that was me out the door of school. Didn't want to go to uni, didn't want to continue that studying. Yeah. So yeah, at the time I was kind of running this was maybe after school sort of time. I was running a marketing agency, but that was off the back of the fashion brand that I'd been running before. I actually remember in school, it was quite funny because maybe in about 5th year, I'm not too sure if it's the same over here, but back home it would be 5th year, about maybe 16, 17.
Yeah.
I was running Eternal Youth, as you would know at the time, and I was kind of hitting up a lot of different people on Instagram, influencers, a few of Justin Bieber's friends, and a lot of them had got back. I remember being on a call, maybe at 16 years old, very squeaky voice, and speaking with these guys, and I remember even you know, them on the other end of that call thinking, you know, this kid sounds young, you know, like this kid does not sound like a guy that owns a business that's going to be sending out stuff. And you know, that was always me, because as I said, during school I was kind of building this brand of my own, which my name, you know, Cameron Glasgow, and one of my friends, Jordan Adatunji, rapper back home in Belfast, shout out Jordan, we would have went round Belfast city centre and kind of took photos together, like fashion outfits and stuff. And back then it was very big, but more so in the likes of London and Manchester, you know, these bigger cities. In Belfast we didn't really have a scene for that, so we felt we needed to take it upon ourselves to do that. You know, back then Hypebeast, Complex, and even The Basement group on Facebook
that I got banned from. You might talk about that.
I think everyone did at this point now. Completely gone. But yeah, back then it was such a culture, you know, like everyone that liked fashion in some way, shape or form, if they collected hyped sneakers or hyped hoodies, t-shirts, it was just, you know, that was the culture, and that's what we liked. But we lived in Belfast, so it was a bit different, because we were looked at as different because we were maybe wearing a Supreme t-shirt, and everyone else was maybe just wearing a River Island or a Top Man, you know, Jack Wells. Yeah, and that was another one very big. But yeah, we wanted to make more of that, and obviously Instagram at the time was the older app. It was the older icon as well at the time when we were doing that. Remember that one, the little, it's like the vintage camera before it went into the rainbow.
Classic.
That's how long we're talking ago. Yeah, so we took it upon ourselves. We took photos, and we started to see then, you know, our following growing and an audience coming in, which was peculiar for someone coming from Belfast to see that. And obviously once the collaborations with brands and stuff started coming in, I remember posting when I had hit 50,000. It took years to get to that point, but I was about 18 and I posted up on a new year, post on my Facebook, and I just said, it's crazy that, you know, years ago in school, I used to get called names and stuff in school, like walking down the corridor, by the years above, where they would be like, you know, he does social media, he's sharing videos, he's doing something different that we don't understand, you know. And then I just remember posting that, and I felt some form of success just in my own head, that I went through all of that in school. And obviously once I left, it was free fall from there. It was just tunnel vision to what I wanted to do. And I think whenever the people that used to say those names in school, whenever they seen the brand collaborations come in, their perception started to change as well. You know, it was
happens, of course.
JD, you know, all these shoes and stuff, and it's stuff like that they were wearing as well. So it was almost like full circle for me. It's like I've worked my ass off to get to this point, and I went through that name calling. I went through all of that, done that, and got out the other side. So yeah, that's where it all started, kind of where this came from. But yeah, all from school and trying to strive for something beyond that way of living. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, fuck me, don't flame me. not yourself, but I was just curious because I've heard this from a few people. I don't know if it's just like Ireland in general or Belfast or whatever, but I've spoken to a few people from there, and you know, I've got a friend of mine, Amber, and she, you know, she was doing the same sort of thing back in the day, like YouTube videos and like putting out like funny skits and all this and whatever. And people are harsh because, like, she was saying that people back home, if they've got a different way of thinking and it's not what they think, they're kind of like on you for it, and they kind of like, oh, that's weird, like what, that's out of norm, what are you doing, instead of being supportive. Is that, like, would you say that's true?
100%. And as I said, it was like whenever I'd left school and went into it, it was like a flick of a switch that, you know, people's perception of what I was doing changed. And I think it was a sign of the time as well, because, you know, back then, whenever I was going through school, you know, this was maybe 23, about 6 years ago, you know, and back then social media wasn't really a big thing. It was just kind of starting to boom off. Influencers were just coming about, fashion influencers specifically. So people didn't understand, and I think that made it worse. But the thing is, happening on the other side of the world in LA, there was YouTubers, even in London, as we were saying earlier about Casper Lee and stuff, like YouTubers in London, but they didn't really get this hatred towards them for doing something different. Whereas in Belfast, as soon as we posted, like, I always wanted to do YouTube, that was another thing, but it was just stuff like that was really putting yourself out there, and it was just, for me at the time, I was a bit more closed in, and wouldn't do it for that reason. It was just kind of like this culture of, if you're putting yourself out there, we're gonna put you down, you know, for doing that thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So with Eternal Youth, like, how did that come about? Why Eternal Youth? Like, what was the whole like thought process behind that? Because I was always quite curious about that.
Yeah. So it's actually it's funny you ask about like the meaning behind Eternal Youth and stuff as well. It was a name that, you know, I spent days before I made that brand on, you know, the name generators and stuff, trying to like get a clothing brand to come up, and you know it was a lot of different words that kind of popped in, but the way that name Eternal Youth came about was me mixing and matching words that were on different brand names that it was generating. Eternal Youth, put them together, and it just stuck with me. You know, like the way I carry myself is always quite young and very happy-go-lucky, and I just felt Eternal Youth, it stands for that. It's eternity of living this life as if you're younger than your years, you know. Obviously now DJing and stuff as well, it still applies, and like sometimes whenever I'm gigging I would actually still wear that t-shirt because those two words mean a lot to me, you know, Eternal Youth. And as I said, like I think it was a sign of the time with that brand, even though we had to end that to bring in something new. It's always stuck with me as something that kind of was the roots of what I then went on to do after, you know.
Interesting. Yeah, no, it's always good when because there's a lot of brands kind of like, you know, people can, it's quite rare, but people get successful just off like, oh, think of a name, think of a design, and they get it out there. It's kind of there, but when there's a little bit more meaning and passion behind it, it obviously holds a lot more weight. So
name generator, and then
yeah.
and then we got
bit of both. So that's happened, done that. Obviously working with Beaver's friends and all that sort of stuff. That must have been such a nice feeling, like, you know, like 100%. I mean, I remember some of the first like people with like when I was younger as well, like, and you hit these people up and you're like, what the fuck? Why are they talking to me? Like, there's no way. It's a bit of like imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
So obviously that's giving you some confidence, and then what comes after that then? So is it the agency after that, or was that before?
Yeah. So it was the agency after that. So it was actually so I started the brand about 16 years old, and obviously within those 2 years I was doing a lot of networking, but that was a lot of online networking. But as soon as I hit 18 and left school, that's whenever things started really happening. So obviously that was the first time I went out to LA. A lot of things happened over there, networking, but really like where the whole shift in that was whenever obviously 18, starting to go out to clubs. At the time I'd already built this brand up and had a lot of followers on Insta and stuff, so I went out and I was speaking to this guy. It was a club that I used to go to a lot, and RIP, it's no longer there in Belfast, but I met this guy called Keelan Patrick, still very close with till this day, and at the time he was promoting the event, and he just said, you know, Cameron, you seem to know what you're doing with marketing, and he said, obviously I'm running this event and stuff, I would love to work with you in some way, shape or form. And I think that's where it all started, where, you know, I was growing multiple different, you know, brands, like theme pages, like all this different stuff. I knew what I was doing on Instagram at the time. So I thought, 100%, I would love to get involved. And then that feeling of helping Keelan out with that night and being able to market that event for him, it just made, and obviously at the time he was paying me a fee to do that, it just made me think, you know, I really like doing this, you know, and until this day, obviously I still run an agency, slightly different than what we'd done before. But yeah, I think that's where it all stemmed. I think that's where the change in it stemmed, because at the time as well I was kind of falling out of love with the brand, the fashion. As I said, still love fashion, still love collecting stuff, but it was just at the time music started to really tick for me, you know. I loved going out listening to different DJs and being able to go to festivals and stuff, and it was just a paradigm shift really for me.
Yeah, interesting. So okay, cool. So that's obviously happened, that's grown. How did this come about? Because I'll tell you what, so just for a bit of context for people watching, for me, I'll just give it, like I said, I'll give a bit of context in regards to myself, to give context to this, because I was fucking mind blown. I was like, what is going on? So obviously me and Cameron obviously know each other for a long time. We had spoken, we'd actually never met, and then I was basically doing STHROUGJ, and then last year, around June time, I was like, right, okay, we need to incorporate more stuff into the business. So then that's when we started looking at doing like the podcasts, and we're doing the events, and then we're doing, the content and music management and all that sort of stuff. So then I was kind of looking through and thinking of like different things that we could do and incorporating on all that sort of stuff. So started getting all the ball rolling and all that sort of stuff. So then I was like, just looking through Instagram, and I think, or Instagram or Facebook, your name popped up, and I was like, oh yeah, he used to do Eternal Youth. Let me see what he's kind of up to. Went in your Instagram, and then at the time when we were speaking, when you had Eternal Youth, I think your personal Instagram had like a lot less followers.
Yeah.
And then I was like, looked, and I was like, 60,000 followers? Excuse me? And then I saw the RAVE Residence, and I was like, what's that? And then I was like, 500,000 followers. I was like, no fucking way, this is
crazy.
Insane. So I was like, so perplexed by that, and the content was so good. It's genuinely so good. Like, I follow the page, notification bells on, looking at all the content, everything that's rolling through. So how did that cultivate? Like, why did that start? Was it DJing first? Was it that? But how did that grow to that point? Like, how did that?
Yeah. So I know exactly how to explain this one. It's interesting as well, because whenever I started that page, I always go back to this story when I talk about it, because it's a great story. Like, so we started that page up, and I remember when it started around 5,000 followers. Again, when it comes to Instagram at the time, I kind of knew what I was doing. I knew how to grow a new page, but I didn't know how to, like, this took off beyond what I had previously known.
Yeah.
But at the time it was maybe sitting at around 5,000, and at the time I was getting help from a friend on learning how to produce at the university he was going to. And I remember coming out after the session that we had, and I said to him outside, he was asking me about the page, and it was, as I said, about 5k, and he says, like, what is the meaning behind that? Like, what's your plan with the page? And I said, trust me, 6 months time from now, it'll be on, 6-figure followers. And I was hoping for about 100,000 at the time. And I says, like, what I want to do with this is promote local artists, because I believe that a lot of artists don't get the promotion that they need, especially 100%. From Belfast.
Yeah.
So that was my goal and mission from day one. And because he kind of knew my background in marketing as well, I could see he kind of believed it as well. But it was then on me to fulfill that dream of building this brand, of building this label, this event series now that we have. Mm-hmm. So obviously I had a lot of work to do from that point, from 5k to get it to where it's at today. And I actually remember one time, so this was over the pandemic, it kind of started, and this is when it really started to blow up. Over the pandemic, what were we in it? 3 years, was it, pandemic?
It was
3 years. So
Jesus.
I remember, like, it was the first Christmas coming up to that, and I actually put on my story, I said, I think it was at about 60,000 followers by the time I put this up, and I says, by Christmas time, and it was around September, October, said by Christmas time this is going to be at 100k. I put it up my story, and obviously like, that's really putting trust in yourself to do this. You're putting it out in the world.
Yeah, for sure.
And then it came to Christmas, and it was a few days before the 25th, and it was on about 97,000. And I was like, no, like, this needs to go through. And it did. It hit 100k. So within like a couple months, it had grew 40k, and at that point it was really rapid. Mm-hmm. Just started going through the roof, and I think it was 100k in 6 months we done.
Yeah. And
then from then on, once we passed that, it just went up and up and up, and obviously it was uncontrollably gaining beyond what I was imagining in my head. So at that point I really started to monetize it. So we looked at a few different avenues. There was e-commerce we looked at, and we looked at obviously the label that we have since 2018. We've been running that, and then 2020 we've started into events as well. 2020 was the label came about, and then 2022 we started the events. Nice. So actually more recent. So it's actually a very nice progression, because 2018 we started the page.
Yeah, carry on. 2020
we started the records, and then 2022 we started the events. So it was a nice progression of time,
Yeah. So just in terms of like the complexities and the ins and outs and stuff, how does that grow? Like, what does that consist of? Is that just like consistently posting? Is it like the content? Is it the way you're strategizing in terms of times and all that sort of stuff? Like,
I think at the time it was like hashtags. So hashtags were working very, very well at the time, and there was a thing that was going about. Basically, there's a market for socials as well, where people would get hashtag research done. So they would study hashtags, and then basically
really?
So they would get given then, say, 90 different hashtags, and you can use 30 on a post. But those 90 hashtags that have been researched and studied by someone that understands hashtags and how they work.
Wow.
You post at the time it worked like wildfire. You were getting maybe like 100,000 impressions from hashtags alone.
Jeez.
But at the time I hadn't actually done that, but I had magically came up with this 30 bunch that I would post on every single post, and it was just working the magic at the time until then Explorer came in, and then Explorer started doing that. And I think, as you mentioned there, I think it was a mixture of content and it was a mixture of posting flat out. Sometimes I was posting 9 times a day,
Really?
flat out. And it's something that I kind of do in my spare time as well. Like there's different theme pages now that I've grown within travel, within within travel, within beauty niche as well, within rave. And it's just a nice way to monetize, because these theme pages as well, then they get ads, sponsorship. So basically, like for us, we would do a lot of marketing for DJs and labels that want ad space. So it's kind of like the way TV used to work. You would pay for an ad on the TV.
Of course, yeah.
But instead they're looking for that ad space on that page. So, obviously you can imagine if you have a travel one, similar to this.
Yeah.
Hotels come in, travel agencies come in, and they ask for the same thing. And that's kind of that was kind of the plan that I had. I've kind of steered away from those, because now I've got this thing that I really need to focus on, and it takes a lot of my time up. So that's kind of how we grew it back then. It was hashtags and Explore. Like back then it was growing all these pages in different niches, that same sort of way, until it all changed, of course, and Instagram's algorithm messed it up.
How dare they?
How dare they? So many.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Do you know what's so funny as well? Like, just on a side note, it's actually mad. One of the first instances of internet advertising was a kid that was at uni, and he was like flat broke, and he basically figured out how to like code, and basically he had a website, and he basically worked out how he could separate this website into like 1,000 different blocks.
I think I've seen this.
Yeah, and then like he would sell each block as advertising for like $100 or $1,000 or something. It made a shitload of money.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of like applying that. It's just kind of like building up the hype, getting people knowing about it, and then they can kind of come in and do that sort of stuff. So interesting. And I think it's smart, because at the end of the day, I feel like now in the space that we're in from an online perspective, it's so competitive. So many people are fighting for the same thing. So you need to stand out. You need to be able to kind of like, you need to have, I would say, a design language and a brand language that people can relate to, but you can offer them a lot of stuff. If you want to go on a page and look at memes, you can look at memes. If you want products, you can buy products. If you want to go to an event, you can go to an event. If you want to find music, you can find music, which is what's amazing. But like, have you got, so you're running with it now, obviously you're doing what you're doing with it now. What have you got, like big plans for it? Like what's kind of like the end goal, or like the plateau that you can continue running with?
Yeah, for sure. So the end goal for me, and I've spoke with a few different industry people about this and kind of what the plan is. So right now we're building on the events, and we're kind of focusing on events for the reason of the likes of Defected that run events and festivals, mini festivals in the likes of Malta, New York. That's what we believe RAVE Residence can get to one day, where we can build a brand so strong where we can go to the likes of Malta, we can go to New York, we can go to LA, but we can run festivals. And I think even the name itself, RAVE Residence, it's like if we had a mad warehouse and we called it the RAVE Residence, it has this sort of branding behind it that could just work. And it's just kind of building up to that point. So that's why at the moment we kind of rolled out that UK European tour. We're trying to get a feel for different countries' markets and just put the feelers out and see who reacts better to it. Obviously looking at our demographics and stuff, seeing what works. And of course there's failures in there as well. It's not always a win. But yeah, like the past few events, like even over that European spring tour, they done really well. So that was kind of like my end moment for, again, tunnel vision on events to kind of put that at the forefront.
Yeah. No, I definitely can see that happening 100%. And it's quite open for interpretation, obviously, like RAVE Residence, because you can kind of have so much like, electronic music, whether it's D&B, house, progressive, whatever it may be. So like you can kind of do tailored events or have like a variety and all that sort of stuff. So kind of covering all bases. Interesting.
We actually have well, I can't say too much about it at the moment, but something that's coming out, and we've toyed with the actual wording, RAVE Residence with a TS.
Right.
You know, so it still
yeah.
has the same ring of RAVE Residence, but it's RAVE Residence. So they're residents of the rave.
Nice.
You know, and
of the rave. Love that.
It just has so much like flexibility with the terminology and how it can be used, how it can be marketed. So I think at this point, what the next thing to do, and as I said, this is where the industry professionals come into play a lot more now. What I've been doing the past few months with the events, you know, it's been going off the page's own, you know, following of what's there already and that engagement, that interaction. But what we now need to do to really build a brand and solidify it is press, is PR, to get it on magazine features, to get it on the likes of Mix Mag, you know, DJ Mag. And that's obviously where they come in and can connect the dots for us, because I feel like there's a brand that's sitting there that is in the early days of what could be very, very big, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely. Covering all bases and being everywhere and anywhere and everywhere.
For sure.
Makes sense. Interesting. Okay. Well, there was something else I wanted to tap into as well. So we mentioned before you were kind of I never really was. I never got into it, but the.
Oh, I know it's coming.
I'm very interested to hear this story in detail. I'm sure that you guys are as well. But the whole crypto NFT space. And I mean, for me, I saw the utility in, you know, some projects, and there was some validity to some of it. But I think it, like we were saying before, it was quite. You know, it got a little bit tarnished towards the end in terms of crypto space now, but I feel like, explain that involvement, how you got into that, and if you've got any interesting stories.
For sure. So the crypto thing came about, basically whenever I was living with a friend, out in Dubai. Now, shout out Daniel, if you're watching this, but basically me and my friend Daniel, we lived together for a while, and at the time he was making a lot of gains from crypto, and at the time NFTs were just coming about as well. And you know, he'd always spoke to me about it, and obviously, like, because I was involved with the internet, involved with marketing, involved with, you know, the whole influencer scene, all of that, you know, crypto kind of made sense to me because it's like internet money, you know. It was like this new feature that I needed to be a part of, that needed to grab onto. And at one point I invested, and I made some money back from it, and from then I thought, you know, this is printing, you know, this is working, so that's where then I got a bit more heavily involved. NFTs were coming out at the time, and of course there was a lot of fun things that you could invest in and make a lot of money back from. And as I said, my friend Dan at the time, we were all following his trades, we were getting involved with those. A lot of failures. I remember there was one time where we had invested in this coin. I had met these guys out in LA. And they were always making, you know, they were investing maybe $10 into a coin or into an NFT, and the return was like 100 grand, you know, like 50 grand, and they were showing these legitimate gains. And because I knew them personally, I knew it was happening. Like I seen one of the guys that I met at a store over there at the time. He was just working on, he was counter staff. It was a sneaker store, consignment. But he was then involved in crypto the year after that, the 2 years after, and he was one of the main guys leading that whole crypto space of these young ballers of making big money. Yeah. And I just seen his life change over the course of like 2 years. You know, he went from, you know, working that job to making 100 grand days. You know, like absolutely crazy. And these were coins that were, you know, obviously. And they fluctuate really fast whenever pump and dump sort of thing as well, but they maybe had some inside knowledge as well, maybe behind that, who knows. But yeah, I think as well that was one of the clauses that I didn't really like about the whole crypto space, because the story I was about to tell there about, we invested in a coin one night off the back of seeing these gains happening very rapidly. We were like, oh, this is quick money, this is going to print. And then we both I invested first. I put maybe about $1,000 into it. And then my friend had also done the same. I ran into his room after because I seen it was printing on my phone. I was like, bro, I'm up to about 2K now. And this was in the space of about like half an hour. So I went in and said, you got to get on this coin. And it kept printing, and it was up to about maybe 3 or 4 grand. And then it was at this time, because it was LA time, we were watching the stories. And that there behind us, this was maybe about 3 or 4 in the morning for us, AM. I was like, we gotta go to sleep, man. So we didn't take it out. We were like, tomorrow we waking up rich, right? Oh boy, was we wrong, man. So we woke up the next day, turned over, rolled out of my bed, waiting for that massive check to cash out. This was my biggest biggest sort of like failure within that crypto space, because I thought it was going to be the big win. This was going to be the big moment. I was down about 600. I was minus 600.
Oh.
From the 1,000 that went in, so it was actually down like 1.6.
Oh no.
You know,
Pain.
but yeah, things like that, you know, they kind of started from that moment. I think that's where it started to tarnish the whole involvement with it. And NFTs at the point as well were starting to go down as well. It was harder to get a good one that we were maybe making money on before. So all of these things happening, and then the big story that I told you earlier about. But basically, I think all of these together, they were all the reason of why I got out of that space, you know, and I think why a lot of people did. There was just too much going on. There was too much scams. There was too much people being greedy with the money that they were making, and there wasn't enough to share, really. Not enough on the table. It's like fake advertising. They're saying there's all this money, but there really isn't. So yeah, like about that event. So this is another story, quite interesting. And you can look this up as well online if you just want to have a read through it as well. So basically, I got an email one day, and I was invited over to this. What it was called was Crypto Eats, and it was basically like a innovative version.
Not affiliated to Uber.
Not affiliated with Uber, exactly. But I think that's what they were trying to do at the time. They were trying to rip off Uber Eats. And I'll tell you why in a second, why I know that is to be true.
Yeah.
So, what the biggest pitfall that I should have seen from the outset was whenever they sent that email across, what they had done. What we found out after was a fake marketing agency that they'd set up, but what they'd also done in that email is they had CC'd every other influencer celebrity into that email, not BCC where you can see the names, or the emails, the private emails of agents of celebrities. They had them all in this big list. They CC'd them in. So they had sent an email out saying, hi, we would love to invite you to this event. We'd love if you can make it. Email back and we can discuss fees and availability, stuff like that. But they had like Joey Essex's private email in there. They had like, I can't remember all the names at the time, but there was a lot of like, you know, the Jack Jones, you know, the guy on Facebook would have done like all these sort of guys, and all the Love Island ones as well. At the time, Love Island was just recently finished, so they had a lot of those emails in there as well. And that should have been the first sign, because a real, you know what they're doing marketing agency would not have CC'd in celebrities to that email. But I think whenever I first seen that, you know, this was maybe 2 years ago now, I think. At the time, again, these are all learning curves for me as I get older, you know, but at the time I'd seen that, and that was me thinking, wow, all of these people are being invited. This is legit. This is great. Like, because what I was also seeing as well, it made it more legit in my eyes, and I think they knew this. Whenever someone replied to that email, if they accidentally replied to all emails on the CC, it meant that everyone else would see that.
Yeah.
So I was seeing a lot of people come back with their electronic press kit of like how much they charge for events. You know, people were charging like 15k for their appearance, and all these like press kits were coming through, and I was seeing them all. So I was thinking, this is legitimate, you know, like I'm seeing all these guys getting back to this email. This is happening, this is going down. So I got back to the email, and obviously we discussed the fee and got that all sorted, and then I was sitting at the airport with my friend again, Daniel. We went out to the event together. I kept saying that they were very slack on sending the payment. You know, they took forever to send it, and they said this was another thing that, see, when I explain this story as well, you'll realize whenever we watch this back, a lot of the pitfalls that I speak about should have been red flags from the get-go, but I never picked up on them. So another thing that was happening through email was, I says, can you bank transfer me it? Or PayPal. They said no, we're only doing crypto because it's a crypto sponsored event. So they were only going to pay me in crypto, which is basically like, it's completely decentralized, so nobody knows their name, nobody knows who sent the payment, etc., etc.
What was the payment? Was it their coin or was it Bitcoin?
It was Ethereum, I think they paid in, yeah. But nobody, like, why would you pay in bank transfer if you're running a massive scam, you know? So another red flag, which I didn't know. I was like, oh, I'm getting crypto, but it will equivalent to this amount of money. So yeah, that happened. We got over to London then, and we were heading out to the event, and I was obviously recording all the content that I had to post for them. This was part of the deal, that had to record content at the event, had to like post the story of me talking about it. You know, I'm heading to Crypto Eats tonight, and get involved, and then I had to like link in my story and stuff. And obviously I felt obliged to do it because I was getting paid, and at this point I didn't know it was a scam. I thought it was all legitimate. I show up and they have party bags branded. Well, actually, before I actually get through the doors of I'm not actually going to mention the club name on this. I don't want to put them in it, but you can probably find that online. But yeah, outside they basically had, and this is where we go back to Uber Eats, where they tried to rip that off. They tried to affiliate it with that by having Crypto Eat bikes outside with the same exact branding as Uber Eats, a complete rip-off of it.
Jesus.
And it said Crypto Eats, and they had hired people on motorcycles to sit outside all night with these massive bags on their back just to make this event more legit, that it was a real event that was happening. And they had fake offices set up with you know, I think it was AI, I don't know if it was AI, but it was basically like they had Photoshop walls within a sample image to have Uber Eats, or sorry, not Uber Eats, Crypto. we can't mix those up, but basically they had Crypto Eats on the walls.
Yeah.
So this was planned out well in advance. And then once I got into the event, all the celebrities there and everything. And yeah, basically I'll just get right to the the beef of the story. So whenever then all the celebrities had been there, the event had happened, all the content started flying out. This event happened on, I believe, the Saturday, and on Sunday was where the scam went down. So it's basically what they call in the crypto world a honeypot scam, where you can invest money but you can't take the money out.
Yeah.
So basically what they were doing was getting all these influencers to pack in their promo at the last minute. And I remember them texting me as well, flat out, being like, you got to post this. So I got it up because at the time in London at the event, I was robbed, and I felt that they were maybe something to do with that as well. I think there was something connected maybe with it. There wasn't, I don't think. But I posted all these stories then for them. Obviously, obliged, pull through on what I was getting paid to do. And next day, well, not even the next day, within the next 2 hours, 3 hours, once everyone found out what was going on with it, I got flooded with DMs. I invested this, I invested that, and actually one of my close friends back home put $1,000 into it.
Oh.
And the next day then, this near brought me to tears, because obviously, you know, I'd fooled my audience, but I was fooled as well, so it wasn't, you know, I have to take part blame for it, for being fooled and not seeing these red flags, but I'd also done a lot of damage to people by putting this out. And I think, you know, it's all public knowledge now, and there was a story came out about Joey Essex attending the event, and his agent, you know, the Sun, I think, put that out, and his agent said, we thought it was fully legit, you know, it looked legit to us, sort of thing. And it was almost like the Sun was pressing them to, like, you need to do your due diligence on this. You need to really, really look into this sort of thing, especially if it's a crypto scam. And as we were talking earlier about all these influencers that got burned doing it as well, at the time it was a quick cash grab, and looking back in retrospect to that now, it's like you really, really did have to do your due diligence. You really had to look into these and make sure they were legit, because half the time, or more than half the time, they weren't, you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's what I found, like, wild. So, you know, crypto, NFTs were like crazy. I wasn't even on Twitter, but like through YouTube and Instagram and
Elon Musk.
Yeah, like I'd see all these I'd see this coin and this coin and this project and this project and this and this and this and this, and it's like buy this now. It's like you see I don't know if you ever see you know, Dylan Dennis.
Yes, yeah.
Like he was going crazy with it, right. But it's just insane, because obviously people, when I think any average person, if they got put in a position where they were like, right, okay, post about this, do this, we'll pay you this much, they're gonna, like, a lot of people wouldn't even like question it, because it's just kind of like they've got their blinkers on, because they're like, this is insane. And they're getting paid so much money. Yeah, it's just a dangerous space. But yeah, I don't know. Do you see a return in terms of like the crypto space? Like, I don't know, because I know there's a few people, someone that we mutually know, but I won't mention the name. But
yes,
like very heavily involved in the crypto space, but I can't speak on it because I'm not involved. Maybe there's something that I'm not seeing, but you know, obviously it might come back. Because there was some utility in some of the coins and stuff and all that sort of stuff, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, what I can say is looking at the utility of it, and this is something that, like, even when it was happening through the thick and thin, I kind of held it to the point where, you know, other people that didn't understand it and said it was a gimmick, I was explaining them the other way. And, you know, I really hope it comes back for the sake of how many times I said to my dad, this stuff's just to prove to him that this stuff's legit.
Yeah.
The amount of times I sat over dinner and said to him, this is the next big thing. It's internet money. It's gonna take over. And even at the time, I remember there was news articles coming out about Bitcoin coming about, and Bitcoin would have been the new version of the pound coin, but in a crypto version.
Yeah.
And obviously all these articles that we were being fed, I was feeding them back to my dad and saying, this is gonna happen. It's taking over money, and everything in the world was happening at the time that made this more believable as well, because we had people using the pound less. We had people not even using cash anymore.
Oh yeah, that's what.
And we had artists complaining about not making money on after sales or anything in the after sale market. Like, for example, an artist makes a really good painting, one of their first. This is just a pure example, no one in particular, but they would then sell that, and after that's sold, say they produce 5 other ones and they start to then get traction on it, they get nothing off the aftermarket sales, whereas where NFTs were coming in, they actually provided help to artists more, because obviously artists struggle, especially if you're a portrait artist or a landscape artist. They struggle sometimes to make money, because if they're doing art for a living, building that brand of making some good coin for what you're doing is hard. It's a hard living. Whereas with crypto, it introduced this new way of working where once the NFT was sold to someone, it stayed on the blockchain. So basically, anytime it was sold after that first sale, the original artist was still making some percentage like commission off that. Yeah, a royalty. So I do see it coming back, and as I said, I hope it does, because I can prove my dad wrong. But no, I do hope it does, and I think for it to come back, I think things need to change for it to come back. I think all the FUD that happened around it whenever it kind of dropped, that needs to go away, and for that to go away, the scams need to go away, and for that to go away, as I said, that's the uphill battle that I feel the industry needs to look at.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, like, how do you regulate that? Is it through the government? No, you can't trust them. Like, that's just ridiculous.
That's the reason why they get away from it.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But something that we completely missed on, which is wild to me. Don't understand how we've got to ask this question. So just going back, so we were talking about RAVE Residence, obviously growing that page, 500,000 followers, blah 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 blah. Alongside that, obviously you're making music yourself. Like, how did that come about? Because I remember, I think I saw on your Instagram, like, go listen to my song. I'd listen to it, I was like, what is going on? Like, this is another thing. I'm like, this is crazy. And it's actually good. So I started saving song after song after song after song.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is mad. So how did that start? Like, where did that come from?
Yeah. I think with everything obviously we've spoke about already, it's always been a natural progression of wanting to get better in whatever I'm doing. So I'm always trying to find that. And obviously, I said I'm one of those guys that likes to latch on to something that I feel and believe in. And obviously at the time and now, I love DJing, I love music, and whenever I started DJing and playing my first gigs in clubs and stuff, I thought, what's the next level? Once you've played your first gig, once you've got a few different appearances, what is next? And obviously the natural progression to that is getting into producing your own music and building your own style of sound. So that happened. I actually think I purchased a laptop at the time for that reason, specifically to get some good software, because I was working off very dusty old laptop at the time, and I was like, if I want to take this serious, I need to get the software, I need to get the plugins, I need to take this more serious, I need to level up. And obviously using money from what I was making on gigs, I upgraded my equipment, I started learning how to produce music, and it was for any producers out there as well that may be watching this, or people involved with DJing, it's fun when you learn it as well. When you're watching these YouTube videos, that's kind of how I got into it. A lot of people buy courses or even go to university, which I've looked at as well, like different music colleges and stuff they go at, and potentially down the line would look into that too, just to better your skills, But for, as I said, for any budding producers out there that really want to get into it, I would recommend YouTube videos. YouTube has everything on it to learn and craft the sound. And you can even buy, like what I used to do whenever I started, I would look at project files where they would basically show you the structure of a track, and they would give you different elements to it. So you would have like the hats, the kick, the bass, and from there you could just toy about with it. And that's kind of where I learned arrangement of music, and I was able to take these different components and rearrange them and start make and mold my own sound. And then from that it goes into sound engineering, where you're actually then building your own sound, and I think that's where it really gets fun, because you're really learning the software,
100%. And I think that's the part of the craft with any sort of form or lane of creativity. Once you start, you play around with it, that's fun, and you kind of like learn the ropes. But once you can actually start molding and building your own kind of, like, whether it's clothing, your own style, whether it's music, your own sound, whether it's kind of like, if you're an influencer or like an Instagrammer, like you can kind of build your own page and your own look and your own feel. That's when it starts to get exciting. So if I'm, correct me if I'm wrong, but you started DJing first and then started producing.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Cool. So how did the DJ starting come about then?
So that, I think that was I'm actually trying to think now. You're tracing my memory back, but can't remember if it was after I had started with RAVE Residence, or no, it was before that. So the DJing came about, actually, it was nearing the end of school, so yeah, whenever the brand was coming to an end at the end of school as well, we started going out. Obviously you hit 18 and you're in your last year of school. We started going out to raves, and me and my friends really enjoyed it. Like I feel like, shout out to the two ones that I DJ with back home, my best mates, Josh Neal and Andy Lindsay. They at the time would have the last year of school, a lot of people became friends with each other. Throughout school it was hard because everyone was kind of in their own little separate subgroups.
Yeah.
But at the end, whenever everyone started going out together to raves, everyone just became this massive family of friends, and I feel like me, Neil, and my friend Adam, we kind of orchestrated that in a way, because we started going out to raves and we were like, this is amazing, like we need to get more people going to these, like we have an event back home called Shine, and we were like, boys, we were at 17, 18, we were like, you need to go to this event, this is sick. And I think that's where it all started. We were going out all the time. I actually remember going out like the weekend before one of my big, I think it was AS levels or A levels, like going out the night before, and
oh shit,
going in, and it was I'd done software. It was a software exam the next day. That's how I kind of, at the time, we were indulged in these raves and the enjoyment of going to them and seeing these new DJs. It was almost like collecting, the way Pokemons would be. It was like collecting different tickets and DJs that you'd seen, and through that and through the DJ culture, watching, DJs play and the art behind it, we then started getting into that conversation of, should we do this? And obviously that's what they class as like a bedroom DJ at the time. That's exactly what we were. We had got a set of decks. Neil actually had got them first, and any time I was going round to his then, and he would maybe have parties at his sometimes and stuff as well. He would be playing them. He was always really good, and I was always kind of watching from the sideline, being like, I need to learn this as well. Like this looks really fun. So he kind of took me under his wing, kind of taught me the ropes off it a bit, and then from there it was kind of, it was straight to, let's get out of this. We're playing house parties. We're doing this flat out now. Obviously, as you do when you're 18, 19, you're partying all the time, and that lifestyle, and we were doing it that much where we were actually getting good, getting better. And obviously, as I come from a marketing background, I'm like, there's a way that we can now start pushing and networking, and because that's how any DJ, any successful DJ gets into the industry. They have to network, they have to go to events, they have to speak to the people that know the people, you know?
Yeah, of course.
So that's kind of what I was doing at the time. I was then starting to look at these events more as like a business opportunity and networking event, and took me a very short amount of time to start realizing that you need to look at this more in that, you know, light if you do want to get moving in this industry. And as soon as I did that, obviously the wheels started moving as well, and everything started to come full picture. And you know, we're all like, obviously the three ones there I'd mentioned Adam there as well, but Andy, Neil and myself, we're all in a very nice place right now back home where they're now running an event as well. Yeah. And of course then I'm running this brand, this event series. So obviously from those years back where it all started, from DJing house parties, and I think that's that cliche story of how DJs get into DJing. You know, they do house parties with friends first, and then they get into the stadiums, the festivals, whatever it is. But I'm glad that we stuck with it and we're in this place that we're in now, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, leading on to that, I've got 3 questions that I want to ask. Very interested to see your thoughts on this.
Let's go.
It's just kind of like to have, or would love to, is essentially. So, if you were to have a festival with RAVE Residence and you could have it anywhere in the world, any setting, whether it's like the forest, the desert, whatever it may be, like what would that look like? Like the ultimate one, like maybe even like the last one.
I love this question, but it's a good brain picker.
Yeah.
Wow. So anywhere in the world, any setup sort of thing?
Yeah, even if it's like kind of like even unrealistic, but something that would be sick. Not unrealistic.
Well,
you know what I mean?
we'll not go unrealistic. What we'll do, actually, we'll what do you call it? Like we'll meditate this into reality. You know, we'll put it into frequencies. So you know.
Shower, you are.
Let's go. But no, let's put it on that same blank of paper as I did. 3 years back over COVID, and I says we're going to hit 100k in 6 months.
Yeah.
Let's visionary this. You asked the question, let's be realistic, but let's also put it in where I want to see. And let's, you know, I don't want to put a time limit on this, because at the moment, you know, events to grow on a page on Instagram, it's a lot more serious. It takes a lot more time to do that. Mm-hmm. But let's create an event that I could see happening in a few years. That would be my dream and where I want to get to. City-wise, well, I would feel bad if I didn't say Belfast, you know. I would feel sad. Yeah, let's say Belfast. Yeah, I also feel bad for saying that, because there's 2 very good festivals in Belfast now, and AVA especially.
I was about to say AVA.
Yeah, and I love the people that run it as well. Actually, tomorrow when we go to Solid Grooves, Dresden, she actually helps with the marketing there at AVA. Shout out Dresden, if you're watching. So, I love the team that run that. So I'll actually not say Belfast for that point. We'll say it's for that point. Don't want to step on their toes. What a festival, man. But yeah, other than that, I'm looking here in the future to move out to Australia next year, the start of next year. My brother lives out there in Sydney.
Shout out to Mellow House.
Shout out to Mellow House. Yeah, he was in London there recently. Bro, you've really got me stuck here. This is a tough question, because I'm thinking they're Australia, but then I'm thinking I want my friends, my day ones, to be there as well. So
just imagine they can get there.
Okay, got you. We're running a festival, man, at this point, so we can fly them all out.
Yeah, of course, exactly. Yeah, you got the PR money.
Got you. So now we're talking. So we're talking Sydney. We're talking Sydney Festival, and actually, this is good that something's just popped into my head. My brother, whenever I went out to Sydney there last year to visit him, had talked about running a festival, and basically, like, he lives quite close to Bondi. I don't know if I can touch too much on this, but him and his friends at the time, I can say this, you know, their dream, and especially his friend had mentioned this, was to have an event on Bondi Beach, which hasn't been done in so many years. Basically, in Australia, they have these things called lockdown laws, where they have a curfew on a lot of the nights that happen there, because a lot of criminal activity happened about 10 or so years ago, but it basically gets expired, I think, this year. So it opens a lot of doors potentially to that night industry, especially in Sydney and CBD. So this is where they kind of came in, and they talked about revolutionizing then the events industry there, and even whenever I went there, obviously that was the first time I was in Sydney and Bondi Beach. I didn't know what it was like prior to this lockdown law, but apparently so, like, to the locals there, it was buzzing, and I would imagine it would be. There was people everywhere, you could barely move, it was bunged. But whenever I was there, what I did experience it wasn't that busy. There was nothing really happening at the night. If you had to walk around in the evening, wasn't many people sitting out having a drink or anything. It was just all closed,
Yeah.
So my brother spoke about maybe running an event on the beach with his friend as well, and they would love to get that funded to happen, because realistically it's a thing that can happen and should happen. It would bring a lot of tourists into the city to go to this event. They talked about Rufus the Soul, Rufus the Soul playing. So yeah, now back to the question, obviously, about my dream. Of course, if I move out to Australia and I'm living there for a few years, and I think maybe for the next 2-3 years potentially, maybe within that time frame we could be running this festival. So Sydney would be where that would be at, and it would be a dream come true if I could run that with my brother in Sydney, and with his friends that I met over there. Great guys. Shout out Diego, shout out Brendy, and shout out Michaela as well, and shout out you all. Everyone. Sick people. But yeah, like, it would be amazing to run that event there, and I think why that would make so much sense is due to that story I just explained, where they haven't had something like this in so many years. So it would be sick if RAVE Residence pops up and we pave that way. We bring something different that they haven't had in so many years. And I think everything so far, obviously, as I said, there's been a lot of downfalls, a lot of highs as well, but everything I feel has kind of fell into place in a way that I like to see it. And it challenges me as well, because obviously when the page started growing beyond what I could imagine, it was falling in place, but it was also challenging me to then think, how can I monetize this? How can I make something beyond just what it was, a gimmick, a theme page? And now it's obviously turned into a monster of its own. And now Australia's kind of talking to me in the way that their lockdown laws expire very soon, and I'm just talking, and I'm at the right perfect age to move out as well to Australia. So it's talking to me in that way of, I'm running events now, bro. Let's get out there and let's shape. Yeah. The world's your oyster. Let's shape this industry that needs to be reshaped, remolded, rebranded. Like, I feel like there's a gap right there in the market, and it's waiting for me to come over and pitch the idea that I have to the people that make the decisions.
Yeah. And do you know what? I'll be honest. Knowing you, knowing your drive, knowing your business acumen, knowing your ability to network, communicate within different spaces, all that sort of stuff, I feel like you'd be the perfect person to bridge the gap from, is the right terminology, bridge the gap? Like, let me put it like this: when I look at Ministry of Sound, I wasn't raving in the 90s. I was fucking 6 years old. I mean, I was just born. But from what I've been told in terms of family, my dad, mum and all that, they were like, Ministry of Sound were killing it. And I feel like Ministry of Sound, the answer to Ministry of Sound now, in essence, would essentially be Boiler Room. Boiler Room are amazing, right? I'm not gonna lie. Everyone loves Boiler Room. They sell out all that sort of stuff. But I don't know. I feel like they're not doing enough. I don't know what it is. Do you know what I mean? I feel like there should be something that's in your face, and I feel like maybe that there might be a detriment to that in regards to social media, the amount that we consume, and how much there is on offer, how much music you can listen to, how much TV you can watch, how many games you can play, you can stream everything, all that sort of stuff. But there needs to be something, and I believe that you would be able to do that, where there's that one thing you go to when it comes to events, when it comes to music. That's what it could be. Yeah,
I think obviously you touched on Boiler Room there being this new sort of remolded version of Ministry of Sound, and I think 100% in the aspect of what Boiler Room done is they took an industry and they made it their own in a way. Boiler Room is now a brand much bigger than dance music. They do ones in Africa, they do it all over the world, and they have different sounds. They even have rappers and stuff that do it as well, and MCs. But basically where they changed the industry is they brought in video cameras and recorded the sets for playback.
Yeah.
This was something that they were never doing before. So, and I think like as well, you're someone that would notice these changes and these tweaks, and obviously what you're doing yourself with your brand is revolutionizing an industry and doing something different. Because you can see what needs to be changed and needs to be tweaked to make something that doesn't exist already. And obviously with Boiler Room, you know, I've been going to them for years. I've been watching them for years, and they're amazing. Like I can't fault them, to be honest. They're doing nothing wrong. But where I can then see is, you know, study, research, and look for something they're not doing. And there's definitely something that they're not doing. And there's a few ideas that I don't want to say now, just in case anyone's watching the podcast that nabs the idea.
I'll take that. Thank you very much.
But there's a lot of things behind the scenes that I've got down on paper and been thinking about what I want to do differently about this industry. And you know, as you mentioned, there's something about a one-stop shop sort of idea of rave music, of dance music, and you know, bringing together a record label, a event series, and a community, and mainly obviously the community is the biggest thing right now that we have, and through time, you know, we, as I said earlier, I can't say that, but we do have another thing on the back burner that's coming in to play very, very soon. So it has all these branches like a tree, and it's just growing and growing and growing, and I feel like at the very top of that tree will be the apple, and the apple will be the events, the Defected Records, defected events like in New York, but then we'll have Rave Residence and we'll have it different. And where I actually see part of the difference being is, this is something that no one can really take from us, is the name itself, Rave Residence. So I spoke with my brother about this and spoke about my idea behind it. You know, long term, what I would love is to have Rave Residence. You know the way Hard Rock Cafe is? So you have Melbourne, you have New York, LA, etc., etc. Basically what we would have, and we actually we put some different logos together of how it would look, but it would basically be text underneath it, and it would be maybe like Melbourne, it would be Los Angeles, and these are going to be like actual buildings that we would have and own, but they would be the Rave Residences, and we would have them plotted across the world in different cities, basically clubs. And people can go to the Rave Residence and party. It becomes a club. And then I would obviously overlook that, but we would have all these other channels that we'd be pushing out music from, pushing artists from, and obviously this all stems back to the reason I started the brand, and that being I want to promote artists that I believe in that need more exposure. So being able to have these different channels to put them through, which Boiler Room quite frankly don't have right now, like the label that we would put music out from these artists, the events that we would put these artists on to play, the other thing that's coming soon that I can't say, all these different channels, they are going to help the artist so much, and we just want to provide a platform as big as we possibly can to rocket these artists onto the next level, because I struggled with it when I started. I needed someone to help me, and thankfully something came through, because now we've got a brand, and that helps me, and it helps me help other people. It's always something that I wanted, and now it's on my plate, you know.
No, I like that. Taking over worldwide, baby.
Let's go.
So
frequencies.
That's it, frequencies, baby. So 2 last questions before we wrap up.
Cool.
So this is leading on from the festival question. This is quite interesting. So let's say you're at the festival in Sydney, right, or you know, wherever it may be.
Sun shining.
That's it. Sun shining. Can't even speak. Sun is shining.
It's a late podcast, by the way, guys.
It is. It's fairly late. Give me a break. You're back to back with a DJ. Who is it? Okay. This, good question, because I asked the question to my friends the other day, and not this question, but I said, if you were a DJ right now at the peak of their career, who would you be and why? And I answered the question. And I said Patrick Toppin. Shout out Patrick Toppin. Really?
And the reason I said that is what I struggled with a lot whenever I DJ is conforming to one genre. You know, I love house, I love disco, I love funk, I love techno.
Yeah.
Patrick Toppin has it all. So, you know, and his sets are filled with energy. And yeah,
G, to be fair.
DJing back to back with him, I think would be so fun because you have a plethora of tracks to play. You know, you can bring it from 120 BPM right up to 140. You can be playing Liletta Holloway, like old school disco tracks, right up to like heavy techno or some BLK in there, you know. So yeah, I think that would be sick. Nice. Shout out Patrick Toppin. If you're watching, let's get that back to back someday. Maybe not.
Let's make it happen. Patty T and Cameron G. Let's go.
Sick.
Last question before we wrap up. It's been a very, very good podcast so far, but I just wanted to ask this because I'm very, very like intrigued. So you're making a tune. It can be whatever type of dance music you want, anything you want. If you had to have a vocalist on it, what artist would you have?
Ooh, wow.
Dead or alive?
Okay, wow. I'm gonna, you know who I'm gonna say, and it might be a bit cliche. Yeah, I'm gonna go for it because it's basically it's the where house music kind of was birthed. Liletta Holloway, one of the old school disco vocalists. It's actually a great documentary about that, and it was The Death of Disco, it's called.
Yeah.
And basically her sample, it's Got Me Burning Up. Have you heard that before? Got Me Burning Up.
I think so.
Love Sensation.
Yeah.
So she was that vocalist, and that track got sampled God knows how many times, and it basically birthed this new foundation of house. And obviously that's what I love. I love house music, disco, and I love this new sort of tech trancey thing. So I would love to have a vocal from her, play about with it, see what magic we could create. That would be sick.
Nice, lovely. Okay. Well, yeah, I think we covered quite a lot there. Definitely interesting to get into the mind of Cameron Glasgow and RAVE Residence and where the brand's going to go and what it's going to be. I've got so much faith in it. Like we went down to Egg first show in London. Because you've done Australia, Helsinki, Belfast. What was it? Belfast or Dublin?
Dublin and Liverpool. Yeah.
Dublin, Liverpool, London, and then you've got Ibiza, potentially New York as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, bits. Unbelievable set. So much coming. So much has already been done. It's exciting. Obviously, keep your eyes peeled. And yeah, we'll put the social down below. And yeah, we'll go from there.
Awesome. Let's go.
Nice one.
My guy.
Nice one. Lovely.
Boom.
Nice. Lovely stuff.
What time?